Hello.
Hello.
It's 8 o'clock and we're live today at 8 o'clock EST. We decided to go a little bit earlier today because, well, I've been tired. I've been really tired lately, so I figured maybe if we start a little bit earlier, that can help me out with my tiredness. Kyle, hello.
Hello, Kyle.
It's been like 2 weeks, right? And it's been like, where does the time go?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't feel like it's been 2 weeks already. But
Yeah,
we're
that's crazy. Yeah. Now that I think of it, it feels
yeah,
like a week ago.
yeah, like not 2 weeks ago for sure. And Kyle said it's time for the Princess Mio St. Joe show. We could do the Muppet Show thing
Mm.
where like Kermit goes
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
bonkers. How are you feeling, Kyle? I know the last time a couple weeks ago you weren't feeling well, and I was really feeling for you then. So hopefully things have improved, but maybe you can let us know because that was really tough to hear what was going on for you a couple of weeks ago. Um, I'm been a little bit better this week, like in terms of nausea. The nausea um, hasn't been as bad as it's been. Because April, like it felt like was like, oh, it was really not great. But the last couple of days again, like my nausea sort of come back a little bit, but not as bad as it was in April. So I've been just noticing how April was a really tough month, coming coming away from um, the all those hospital stays and then getting back into treatment and all of that, and then um, yeah, it was a tough month, but got through it and feeling a little bit better now. And in terms of energy, there was a few days in the last week or so that was
Mm.
really pretty good, and I was really happy for that. But the last day and a half or so, I'm still sort of back with the little bit of the nausea, which I'm not super happy about. But I mean, what are you gonna do? Kyle says, "You turned adorable."
Well, thank you.
I don't know about too adorable. um, and you're also saying still shaky but alive and well. I'm sorry that you're still feeling shaky. Hope. I mean, I do really just hope that you start feeling better and but. I hear you about the shakiness for sure. Woodstock peeping me from the corner. I know. I mean, if I could, I mean, he would be my logo, I think. So, just thought it was a fun little icon to put up
Hmm.
there. You notice that he's sitting there with his big eyes up there. And hello,
Hello.
Frey. Yes, Junior 213. I hope you had a good couple of weeks. Is there another? Is there something a little? Could I just call you Frey, maybe, or what would be like the best thing to call you? Because Frey, yes, Junior 213 uses a long name to call you every single time. So
Frey.
let us know what if Frey's okay, or if you or
Fred.
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 Fred's good. Call you Fred. How are you doing, Fred? And how's what's going on in Baseball Nation, huh?
Mm. Yeah.
Speaking about the last couple of weeks,
The Jays have been
um,
sucking.
I mean, it's pretty incredible what 2 weeks can
Yeah. Do.
do. And Kyle saying, "Hey, Fred." So we're all, yeah. So mhm. it's pretty like but that's a good way of kind of putting it in context, though, because in 2 weeks things can really change,
Hmm.
and I like that we all say hi and like we're all connecting here. But like 2 weeks ago, we were in a pretty good position, and the Jays were playing pretty well, and we were thinking it's like, hey, this is they're doing all right, they're doing all right, and then you know nosedive the last
Yeah.
couple of weeks,
Yes,
especially in the last week. But you never know. You never know what.
so they're on a, I think, what, a five game
Yeah,
5 game losing skid.
or a four game losing skid actually.
So
Yeah. Because we had that double header that we the first one
yeah,
that we had
so
won. So
they're in third, I believe, third place in the
what is
division. So
yeah, and what is this team doing in third place? It doesn't make any sense.
they're
But
just not hitting. I mean, um, there's runners on base, and no, they're just not getting those hits. And
mm,
the pitching isn't um, that solid.
yeah, for
You
us,
know?
yeah, baseball is good, but Blue Jays baseball is not so
Yeah.
good. That's how it goes. But the last time we were on, Joe had actually left before the live stream was
Hmm.
over because he wanted to see whether or not he could get to a show down the street ish, probably about what, like half an hour away. It's
No, it's like a 10-minute walk.
okay, 15 minutes. But let's just say though, your understanding of time and distance.
Right.
Okay, I'm
It's
gonna I'm gonna say half an hour. Joe says 15 minutes, but so he left to see whether or not he would be able to get to a show that was happening up the street at the L no
uh,
at the Horseshoe,
horseshoe.
and he was going to see whether or not he can get um, a an LP, an
Hmm.
actual like vinyl. So um,
And the reason I did that was there was this group that I found out about called the Surfer Jets, and it's like a all girl surf guitar rock group.
cool.
So it's all instrumental, sort of twangy surf guitar. There's no lyrics, or kind of in the like Dick Dale or the Shadows, I guess. If anyone knows those two.
Not me.
Um, so I actually wasn't going to go to the gig, um, and because I just saw it on Instagram. Uh, but I listened to some of their tracks. I'm like, oh, I like that. Oh, they have a debut album that it's a launch thing for that. So I was actually going to just order the record through the label um, online, but you know it would have been like $36 US and then $30 shipping, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like
That's a lot of
that's
money.
a lot of
It adds
money.
up. It adds up.
So I just figured, I'm gonna just walk up the street, and I think it was like $13 to see them and see if they have one of their albums there because they're launching this
Yeah, and they're a
album.
local
And they're
band.
a local band.
Yeah, like it does seem a little bit. I mean, it makes sense that distributors and manufacturers might be um, shipping from the states and things
Hmm.
like that. But if you are wanting to support a local band and they are having a local gig, then why
Hmm.
not see whether or not like you can purchase the LP from there?
Yeah, so that's what I did. I just walked up there, and I didn't know if there would be like a merch table or anything like that. So I
Which would
walked.
make sense if there would.
Yeah, so I think before they released a couple 45s or something, but this is their first full album.
Show and tell.
So I got to see them, and I met them.
Super cute.
It's called the Surfer Jets, and they all signed the album. It's like if you're into this stuff, it's a pink vinyl
Oh, cute.
surf guitar, and I actually got this too because so that's so they got that whole '60s sort of vibe surf guitar, and I believe they have a
Cute.
YouTube channel as well, which you know, they tour around and do gigs outside of Toronto, like
Sure, I'm
Las
sure.
Vegas and cruise ships and surf guitar
Right.
festivals, and yeah, they were great. They do a great cover of on that album, they do a cover of the Beatles' "She Loves You," but surf guitar style,
Hmm.
and Blondie's "Heart of Glass," and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
So
And
they
so
put on a good show. And
yeah, so it turns out that when Joe left, in the toward the end of the live stream last time, that he actually did get to the gig and he got a record
yeah,
and all of that.
I
So
missed the first two bands, but that's okay.
yeah, but still, like
Hmm.
you went to get the LP,
Yeah,
so
pretty
that's
much.
what
Yeah.
you got. So that's pretty cool. So we were talking about baseball earlier, and it's been very very good. Again, not for the Jays,
No.
but I've been eating strawberries though. The strawberries have been good from California. I got strawberries from California.
Mm.
I can talk about that a little bit later, but um, Fred said he's going to be right back. He has to have to go somewhere, so so Fred will be back, and oh, that's that. And surfing, surfing
Surfing bird.
birds,
Yeah.
but there are surfing birds even.
Bird, bird, bird. About the bird.
But that's the thing, right? Like with back in the '60s, like they used to call women birds. That
Well, the English did.
yeah. You just watch your leg, please, because I
Yeah.
think you can
I don't want to hit the
knock
cable.
the thing over, and it'll be chaos. But so
Surfing bird, I think, is by the Trashmen, I believe.
oh,
60s group.
you guys are all about the deep cuts because I have no idea what that would be. But it's cool. Like, and I'm glad that Joe had an opportunity to go and get the LP, and I think that was really cool
Yeah,
that you
for
got that.
sure.
You said that you didn't you say that you also witnessed like some kind of like a bar
Yeah,
fight
it
or
was
something?
crazy. The show ended, and I guess there, like, the baseball game was that day, but it was a weird day,
It was a day. It was a
so
day game.
a day game. So uh, there were two guys in there from the baseball game, and they were all wearing jerseys, Jays stuff, and they were just like polluted. So I guess they were drinking at the game, and
Well,
then
you
they
know,
went. I don't know, but they were
just
pretty sloshed.
yeah, right. They were
So
just drunk.
one of them got, cut off.
Mm.
So he started mouthing off to security and the bartenders and whatnot. And then the other guy started mouthing off, and then they asked him to leave. And then there was just like a weird scuffle all of a sudden. So they like kind of bounced right by me. They bounced off a wall. They bounced off the bar. Uh, they had the guy pinned on the bar for a bit, and then they forced him out the door. But he ended up breaking the glass door.
Oh my gosh.
And the police came and everything. And I think he actually uh, put his hands around the bartender's neck or something.
That's a no
So
no.
So I mean, it's like he would have been charged mischief, probably for breaking, causing the scene and stuff, not leaving. But
Once you put
and
your hand,
assault, yeah.
yeah.
So it was not a good scene. It's too bad it's ended like that. But
But you were there the entire time, going like, "What's happening?"
it was crazy. It was like a pinball machine. It was just like bang, boom, bing, and out the door, and the whole door. And the cops were there. Like it was like they came out of nowhere. So it must have happened very
Yeah, but Queen
quickly.
Street, there are probably cops pretty near close by or whatever, and
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. And I mean, if you ever like, I don't argue. I like if you had too much to drink or something, and the bar says you're cut off or whatever, please leave. Just leave. Like because these guys like literally
Well,
started a fight,
but
and I mean,
the
look,
problem is though that people who are cut off have had too much to drink, so
right?
they're belligerent,
No, for sure, and they want to,
and they don't believe that they should have been cut off or whatever because people think that they are able to hold their liquor more than they're actually able to,
mm,
and they don't want to be told no.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's part of the problem with alcohol stuff, really. Like that most people are, I think probably the
Mm-hmm.
majority of people who get cut off don't believe they should get
Mm-hmm.
cut off
Yeah.
because they've gone to the bar to get another drink
Yeah.
thinking that they should be able to get another
Yeah.
drink, as opposed to, like, I don't know, like I don't know what the percentage would be, but it's probably a small percentage of people who would be like, yeah, you're right, I've drank too much.
Yeah.
Most people are probably like, no, like, I'm fine or
Yeah.
whatever, and it's too bad, but that's the problem with alcohol
Yeah.
consumption.
And you know what it reminded me of is that time on Spadina a few years ago. We were walking, and there was some guy, and he was so drunk that he literally just blanked out or passed out, and he just fell back like this, and he banged his head off of the sidewalk. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
There was like some blood and stuff,
Oh yeah.
and we went over, like we're just walking by, like getting groceries or that. Are you okay? Are you okay? And then like a security guard came over from the building, and we flagged down like a cop on a
Mm,
bike and so forth. But that guy was so like he just like blanked out and ended
yeah.
up cracking his head open on the
I
sidewalk
know, it's
because he was
crazy.
so drunk.
Yeah. See some crazy
Yeah,
stuff in
big
downtown.
cities.
But Kyle was saying the grandson just showed up, so it's happy brief papa time. So don't, like, hopefully that's really really awesome. So I hope you have fun with your grandson. That's awesome. It's brief papa time. um, but I know, like, sloppy drunks annoy me to no end. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yeah, people people with, yeah, it's not cool. And I know, like, in my younger days, or might have probably been some times when I
Mm-hmm.
might have gotten, sloppy, but it's been a few years now
Mm-hmm.
since I've really drank, and I don't definitely
Mm-hmm.
don't drink anymore. And yeah, it is you end up, when you don't drink, especially like Joe does drink on occasion. I don't drink at all anymore. And but on the other side, like, there is a different kind of a sense of like, oh, that's not something that I would do anymore. And I don't know, like, it is a different kind of, um, I don't know, a mindset or something like that. And I'm glad for myself anyway that that's
Mm-hmm.
that's not something that um, is problematic for me anymore. But I was saying earlier, showing off is chaos magic. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking of like chaos magic, I think that's interesting because we've been watching. We did watch.
Moon Knight.
Well, we watched Moon Knight, but we also watched um, Doctor Strange
Yeah, we saw Doctor Strange.
and the Multiverse of Madness, and there was a lot that was going on in that movie. I
Mm-hmm.
So to back up for a second, I guess Moon Knight was done last week.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed Moon Knight on Disney Plus. Probably more than, I think, of all of the Disney Plus shows that we've seen so far. For me, anyway, I think that I most enjoyed Moon Knight, and do hope that there is actually more with that character. And I think that a lot of it had to do with the actors in it. I you know I There's a lot of, we watch a lot of breakdowns and things like that because a lot of times I don't understand the context for a lot of what happens in some of this Disney Plus stuff. So we watch the breakdowns and things like that, and I find them very interesting, and useful. Like, it's really resourceful, like, to be able to watch that stuff and kind of get more of the background and the context and things like that. But I think that Oscar Isaacs, in Moon Knight, and the role that he plays in it, I think is really great. Like, he's really great.
Mm-hmm.
And the choices he made for the role um, was really great too. And Ethan Hawke is
He
really
was
good in
good,
it,
yeah.
and it's just a really I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Moon Knight, and if I'm able to see more of it in the future, I think it'd be really like I would enjoy it, or if they even had like more of the maybe they make a movie for Moon Knight or something like that. I think that would be really cool. And what did you think about Moon Knight? Fred's
I'm
back.
I read it a little bit as a kid, and I liked the character. It's a cool looking character, but I didn't quite understand. Like, it didn't. Uh, like, I was more of a Spider-Man reader back then, and I didn't understand the other personalities he had, the identities. Like, he was Mark Spector, and then he was, a cab driver,
Right.
and then he actually had a butler like Batman in the comics called Frenchie or something like that.
Mhm.
Who I think his helicopter was a moon or something like that.
Mhm.
But I mean, it was kind of cool, but it didn't. I didn't quite understand it. So it's
Back when you were a kid.
back when I was a kid. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't. But I thought the show was good. Like how they did it with the different personalities, and it was well acted. I thought the costume was a little too CG though.
Yeah, that's you're picky about that kind
Yeah,
of stuff. Yeah.
but I liked it. It was probably the best Disney Plus show because some of them I just got really bored with, and you know
I've
didn't
I've
find them
liked
that uh,
I've liked
interesting.
most of the Disney Plus stuff. Like some aren't as good as other ones, and I found that this like I really enjoyed this one
Hmm.
probably the most. I think. Kyle says wanted to see more of Moon Knight in costume. It was pretty good
Yeah.
overall. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Someone timed it, I believe, and there's only like 5 minutes of him in costume, like throughout the whole series. Like, someone went there and counted all
They would.
the scenes.
It's so
I
crazy.
liked his costume. I think there was a second series in the mid '80s where he,
Comic books.
in the comic books, where he had these bracelets, and he had an ankh that gave him powers, so he could actually, like, before he was just a normal guy, right? But you know he could lift like 2 or 3 tons or something, and that was pretty good too. I don't remember too much of it, but
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have any context for it apart from seeing the stuff in live action or MCU. So you guys have more of a context for it than I do. But Kyle has clearly seen Doctor Strange.
hmm.
Says Doctor Strange is probably the most comic book accurate film ever made, at least in the MCU, especially the mid credit scene.
The
Uh,
first one or the new one?
I think the new one. Oh, actually, I don't know. I'm assuming he means the new one, um, but I'm sure Kyle can tell us. Um, in the mid credit scene, I thought and this is something. Yeah, the new one. He
Yeah.
says. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and so um, I'm not a horror person, and the one thing that I keep hearing about this new Doctor Strange movie is that it's probably the most horror, and I guess it's all because of like Sam Raimi and his influence on this particular
Hmm.
movie. But people seem to really like enjoy the fact that it's a Sam Raimi and that it works with it being like Doctor Strange. It seems like to me like I don't know, like again, like I'm not a comic book person, so I don't have that sense. I thought that it was a good movie.
Mm.
I thought that there was a lot that was going on in it, and I enjoyed I enjoyed a lot of it. Probably I certainly enjoyed it. I think more than the first one, the first Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, I liked it better than the first Doctor Strange movie. That one is weird because I did like it when I saw it, but then I tried to watch it again later, and I found it a little bit boring in some parts. Where this movie, I thought it had a good pace, and a lot of the magic stuff in it was more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The bit with the undead and um, just some of the sequences.
Mm-hmm. So
So,
Kyle's saying, been waiting for her to show up as a Marvel character for years and was perfectly cast. I'm going to assume that you mean the mid uh, mid credit scene. Um, in that perfectly cast thing. And just in case there's people who haven't watched it and are watching this and might be interested, I'm not gonna spoil it for what that is. But I mean, I think that it's not spoiling it to say that there is a mid credit scene and an end credit scene
mhm.
in this movie, which is pretty, par for the course for any MCU movie. But yep, the credit scene, no spoilers. And I don't know, like, because just because it's only been out for a week, I think that there might be some people who may be watching this and
Mhm.
might want to watch that movie, and be surprised by some of the stuff in that movie. And I think that's also what I liked about that movie too. Like, I'm not like a huge like comic book person, but I have been, and I've been pretty invested in the MCU since the very beginning, and to see a lot of the stuff that happened in this movie was cool. That it kind of like, some people say it's like, oh, like maybe, you know um, fan service, or some of it's kind of cheap fan service or whatever. I don't mind cheap fan service. I thought it was funny. I thought it was fun whenever some of that stuff came up. So that was also a part of the movie that I think I really liked.
Yeah, I thought I didn't really think there was like fan service in it, like a little bit, but it didn't overpower the. It wasn't out of place, I should say, in the movie. It fit into where it needed to be, um, and I think he. I really like the Sam Rami, Rami, Remy,
I
Rami,
think it's Raimi.
Raimi. Thank you, Sam Raimi scenes in it. So
What do you mean, like scenes though? Because like
because he's got a certain
I
style. Like
know,
if
but
you
that was this movie.
yeah no, but he like Evil Dead and like obviously you haven't seen those movies, but there's a certain style to them, and even in Spider-Man 2, like because he directed that. Actually, all three of them, the action and stuff has like a little bit of a darker edge to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed those scenes
But why say that there are Sam Raimi scenes as opposed to
because they
it's a
really,
Sam Raimi
yeah, I
movie?
know, but they stick out more. You know what I mean? And then like there was
No, it's like,
some scenes where it was just like dialogue or something, and obviously he shot it, but it didn't. It just like you could tell what scenes he did. Because maybe there was a second
or
unit or something like that.
or I don't know, like, or maybe that he put more of his style on certain
Yeah, and I mean,
scenes.
I know he was a big Doctor Strange fan from what I've read, like Spider Man and Doctor
Hmm.
Strange.
So that must be really cool for him to have been able to do these two really big
Mm-hmm.
franchises. Kyle says, I desperately want to see a proper Defenders movie with Doctor Strange, Hulk, Submariner, Silver Surfer, Nighthawk, Valkyrie, Son of Satan, Hellcat, and the rest. And the rest? There's more?
Yeah, there's a lot of Defenders.
How many,
Yeah, I mean,
how
it's
many Defenders are there?
like I remember the Defenders when I guess it was Doctor Strange, Hulk, Submariner, um, what was it, Nighthawk, like in the early '80s.
Mm-hmm.
And Hellcat, I think, was there. in Valkyrie. Sorry, uh, but yeah, the that Netflix Defender show was just trash, just awful. Really
Well,
too bad. I mean,
yeah.
Daredevil was really good, and Luke Cage was good, but yeah, the guy they had playing Iron Fist was just
Well,
brutal.
unequivocally, like people
Yeah,
are like, not that guy.
yeah, acting and kung fu, like he's just awful.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. We didn't watch Iron Fist, so
No,
we don't
I
even
watched
know.
the first one
Hmm.
just to see, and I couldn't watch the rest. It was so bad.
Yeah, I don't. I
So
haven't seen any of the Iron Fist stuff, so can't say. But yeah, I mean, now they are kind of lined up to be able to do more of a proper Defenders movie, I
mm,
guess. But I don't know how they would get all of these people in one movie. I guess it's sort of like an Avengers type of thing, but they have to really set it up to be able to make it work like that. But it doesn't seem like that's what they're working toward right now, though. Does it seem to you?
no, it's they're going to obviously do the multiverse thing. I'm actually kind of sick of the multiverse um, stuff now. I just wish they would just turn the page on it because I feel it's been a plot device to throw a bunch of stuff together that doesn't have to be explained. You know what I mean? And it was cool in the comics, but now like when you start using it too much, I think it's kind of lost a little bit of the impact. So I hope whatever they do, they can just get away from that and just do I don't know.
But they're not going to get away from it. Like they're fully
Like
in it. They're fully
yeah, but
invested in it.
just like get on with it,
But they're
like
not
do King the Conqueror or something like that,
right.
and
But they're
Doctor Doom or just something. So,
but I mean it's going to be this, they're using the multiverse to be able to do those things. I
yeah,
think,
I know, but it's
and
just
also maybe to bring in like the X-Men and stuff like that. It seems like anyway. The Netflix stuff had minutes of entertainment buried in hours of boring time. Yeah,
yeah,
that probably had to do a lot with like the budget that they were working with too.
yeah. The
Yeah.
Punisher was pretty good.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Punisher was pretty good. He's a
um,
good actor too.
yeah, I don't think we watched the whole second season of The Punisher though. I
Mm,
don't seem to recall that we watched the first one.
yeah, I don't
And we
remember.
never watched Jessica Jones or
Yeah,
whatever her name is.
yeah, Jessica Jones. And I don't really have. I would have watched it. I think it was just because you didn't seem to have a lot of.
I didn't know who the character was. I
Yeah,
just
and I don't know who any of the
right,
characters are, so I just watched them
yeah.
when they.
Daredevil was the best. Daredevil season 1 and 2.
I think I like Punisher more than I liked Daredevil. You really like Daredevil.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. You like Daredevil as the character too.
and the
Yeah.
Kingpin was the best. And in Daredevil, they kind of screwed him up in Hawkeye.
Well, they have infinite number of ways to be able to
Bring him back.
bring
And
him back and do stuff because I mean that's part of the whole multiverse thing
yeah,
too, right? Is that they're able to do that. So yeah. So for anyone who's watching this who's into MCU stuff, for what it's worth, what for what Joe and I think about it. And I think Kyle really liked Doctor Strange too. So we recommend watching
mhm.
it. It was a fun
Yeah,
watch.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's probably the best thing they've done in a few films. Like we haven't seen the Eternals,
Eternals.
but
Yeah,
I liked it better than Black Widow. I thought that movie was pretty weak,
I didn't mind Black Widow.
and even Endgame, the second part, I thought it was a little bit weak.
Mm,
I love the first one. I think that's like the best.
what do you mean the first one?
Well, part one of Infinity War.
I see.
Um,
The second movie.
no, the first because it was part one and part two, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. 'Cause part
They all have
one,
names though.
yeah, I know Infinity. What was it, Infinity War or
I don't know.
Endgame? Endgame, I think, was the
Endgame.
second
No,
one.
Endgame was the last movie
Right.
because it was the end
Right.
game.
Yeah, I thought there
uh,
were parts of that that were, I didn't like how they killed off Thanos in the beginning, and then like it was, yeah, sorry, spoiler, yeah. So it was
like 5
Thanos
years
from the
later.
past, so like it didn't have any sort of, because he would be battling someone like Scarlet Witch. She's like, I'm gonna make you pay for killing the man I love. And he's like, who are you? I don't know who you are. And, like,
Joe couldn't like do the whole movie,
yes.
but it's okay. So Joe didn't like the last Avengers movie.
I didn't think it was as nearly as strong as the first one. So.
It wasn't as good as the second one because there were three, right? There were three movies in that. Wasn't there a
The first
trilogy,
one,
or was
well,
it Civil War?
first one,
It doesn't matter.
oh,
We're
Age
boring.
of Ultron. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
That one was actually kind of weak too.
But that's our that's our Marvel. I didn't even think that we were going to talk about Marvel today,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's. I mean, like for somebody like me, who again like has no context from the comic book standpoint, to just to have an investment in the MCU just from, I guess like some people would say, the Hulk movie, with
Ang Lee.
Ang Lee
Yeah,
is
that was.
probably the start of it. Like I don't include that, even though I guess the whole Thunderbolt Ross thing is a
Oh, he
thing.
he was in that. He was in the Incredible Hulk. Like the MCU
Oh,
started Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk. Like
Iron
those,
Man was before the Incredible Hulk.
yeah, because it was
Oh,
that summer. Iron Man came out first, was this big hit,
yeah.
and then the Incredible Hulk. Because
I always just thought that
yeah,
that.
the Ang Lee thing is like that's a different
Oh
Hulk
no, I
movie
wasn't.
entirely.
So I had make it. I had mistakenly thought that the Ang Lee movie was also the same as the one with that
Yeah,
with what's his face? What's this guy?
Edward
Edward
Norton.
Norton.
Yeah. Yeah,
I was
the
wrong.
Ang Lee one is like unwatchable, like
I don't know
being
what
like
it
a
is. I mean,
like it
it
was
wasn't like
super
it
long.
wasn't
Yeah,
super great,
yeah,
but I mean, I remember watching it.
yeah.
It was very strange though that Ang Lee would have done that,
All
but
those split screens and stuff like that.
oh, I don't remember any of that. But my point being, like I've been invested in the MCU since Iron Man, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. And so to have all of this happen and to be learning about new characters or being invested in new characters and stuff like that. I mean, not to the same level, I don't think, as phase 1 MCU stuff it seems like to me, but it's cool. And Disney Plus has really kind of pushed things, in my opinion, it's kind of like push things to a different level in terms of our connection with these characters, and I don't know, they're interesting. And for me, someone who has like, I get like really worked up about like stories and narratives and things like that. And what I mean by that is like I'm sensitive. So sometimes like when there are certain kinds of stories or certain ways that stories are told, I get like really worked up.
Mm.
And so like my sensitivity just gets really heightened. So these MCU stuff to me is 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 um is easier for me to digest, I want to say, because it doesn't hit me as deeply as like other kinds of narratives might. So and it's very formulaic, right? Like for the most part what's going to happen, and then it's like sure, okay, like Endgame, like you might have not exactly known that Iron Man was going to bite it, but but it wasn't like it's not it's sort of building up to all of that, and it wasn't it's not something that like sure, like I care about it, but I don't it's on a different level than like some other kind of like movies or narratives might be. So it's an interesting thing for me, like in terms of like things being entertaining, that I can consume MCU stuff in ways that feel like lighthearted for me. So I appreciate that about MCU stuff for sure, and also some of the Star Wars stuff, like the Mandalorian. I really like I really like the Mandalorian,
Okay.
and the Book of Boba Fett. I mean, clearly, like there were some issues with that, but I like the stories and I like those characters. So the Ang Lee one was in 2003, pre MCU.
Mm-hmm.
The Norton Hulk came out same summer of 2008 with Iron Man
Iron
1.
Man.
You guys are on the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
page. I'm totally.
Yeah. And it's not a bad film either. The Incredible Hulk. They took a little bit out of the comics with the whole Mr. Green, Mr. Blue thing. Um, and
And
he
you're
definitely,
talking about the Hulk,
yeah, the
Mr. Green?
Incredible Hulk, and he actually looked way better than the Ang Lee Hulk, which he made like a really weird size. I remember he
But
was
also
like,
too, like 5 years is a long time, like technologically
yeah, for
speaking,
sure.
and CGI probably, from 2003 to 2008 would have made a huge
Hmm.
difference.
Yeah. I still think they have to do like you know, I still don't think the Hulk has gotten a decent film. You know,
Well, he hasn't.
he hasn't.
Yeah.
Because if you read the comics, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with the Hulk, and the army was always after him, and it wouldn't just be like one or two jeeps or something like that, or a tank. It'd be like a whole massive army, hunting him and
Well,
stuff like
you're
that.
a big Hulk guy,
And even the
and
psychological stuff too, like Banner trying to, like the Hulk trying to break through to, get Banner to let him out, and like there's just so much you could do. Like you could look at
yeah, but
the
that's not
the
the
comic
reason. But that's not
panels,
the
and
reason why they haven't done a Hulk movie. I think they haven't done a Hulk movie because they have rights issues,
yeah, there was
right?
all that too. But I mean, it was just, you know, I remember seeing like the Ang Lee. I did see it twice, but I didn't really like it. So.
Mm-hmm. No, but the point being, like, once the MCU was developed, you would, like, people who are fans of the Hulk and would like a Hulk movie, I would imagine, would want a more fleshed out Hulk movie. But I think
Hmm.
that isn't there some kind of rights stuff around
I think there
Hulk?
was, yeah.
Yeah. So, um,
Hmm.
uh, Kyle saying the Hulk in Ragnarok was perfect. Sony still owns the movie rights to Hulk, but not the
Hmm.
cartoon. So yeah, so I think and Sony, you know,
They should do. Kyle probably knows, but there was a great little Hulk story in the '90s, like a two-parter. I think it's like Peter David. It's like a one-shot thing, and it's like called Future Imperfect. That would be a fantastic Hulk movie where he fights himself in the
it's just
future.
such deep cut stuff.
No, but it's a great story. Like the
Yeah,
Hulk, basically mankind gets wiped
yeah,
out.
you
So,
don't. Okay,
yeah,
tell us
yes,
about
he knows.
it.
So,
Maestro.
Maestro, like, and it's such a great graphic novel that would be a perfect movie, I think.
Hmm. Well, I know that my understanding is that Mark Ruffalo has been really pushing them to do some kind of a Hulk movie,
Mm.
and he understands all that stuff, but still also believes that Hulk should have his own movie, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. So I'm sure, you know, they're trying to figure out a way to make that happen, and yeah, stuff like that. But
Hmm.
it's interesting how there were like these two movies like super early on, and it's unfortunate that they haven't been able to revive it, because they've revived like Spider-Man how many times over since then,
Yeah,
you
or
know,
Batman.
doing that, and Batman since then. But hopefully they'll be able to figure out how the Hulk fits into all this stuff, you know. But
I mean, how can you have a Hulk movie with no Rick Jones? I mean, that was the big problem with the Ang Lee one, and even the Incredible Hulk too. I mean,
oh,
there was no Rick Jones.
mm-hmm. And Rick Jones is who?
Rick Jones is the kid who drove his jalopy onto the nuclear testing site for the gamma bomb as a prank, as a dare. Someone called him Chicken, so he did that, and Banner ran out to save him, and then he got hit with the gamma bomb. So Rick Jones was always kind of the Hulk's sidekick.
Mm.
And I think for later on, I think he was Bucky for a while. I could be wrong with that,
Mm.
but
Oh, Kyle says Sony owns
yeah.
Spidey. Universal owns Hulk.
Oh,
I brain farted. Yeah, it's some interesting stuff around how like all this rights stuff works.
mm-hmm.
I think at one point like we made like a really like we were driving around and we made a video about trying to explain the differences and how like the MCU and also DC, because there's still a lot of people who don't know the difference. The Marvel and
Marvel and
DC
DC.
are
Yeah.
two different companies, and they have like two sets of characters, and then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, of course, like Marvel has all this rights stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Well,
fascinating.
they went chapter 11 in the 90s with the comic crash, I guess. And they ended up buying like Toy Biz and like a card company and all this stuff.
Who's they?
Marvel.
Oh, okay.
So they had to file for Chapter 11. So to generate money, they sold off a lot of the rights for films to different studios, and that's why it's so splintered, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Sony will never ever let go of Spider-Man. As long as they keep making Spider-Man movies, they'll
It's like
just retain that.
they have like a
Yeah, like
perpetuity
why
thing.
would you? Like that would be like, oh, we'll give up the rights to Batman.
No, for sure.
Like all they have to do is, even if they didn't have a good idea for a Spider-Man movie, they could just get like some guy in a Halloween costume and shoot it and release it. And if it bombed, it doesn't matter. They would just keep those rights going.
So Kyle's saying Rick Jones shared a body with Captain Marvel too.
Uh, yeah, I think he's right about that.
You-
I remember that, but reading that, they used to have these
this is
Marvel Universe books where it was kind of like a dictionary of all the characters and stuff. So you could read about their history and when they first appeared and
mm.
how strong they were, and it was kind of cool.
So Kyle was also saying Marvel
Yeah.
sold off a bunch of rights when they were bankrupted. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so you guys are the experts.
It's
Good.
crazy. Imagine if they kept all those rights and they just, you know, um, but obviously they couldn't.
Yeah,
So.
and that's like alternate history stuff. Like that's like multiverse of madness stuff. But I think one of the interesting things is about how they show up in theme parks, and I'm a little bit more kind of invested in like theme park stuff, and so I know that the west of the Mississippi, which is the craziest like way of figuring out the rights to something, I think. But the west of the Mississippi, um, so Disney or Marvel would have access to their characters and theme parks, and then east of the Mississippi they don't. So Universal Orlando has Islands of Adventure. They have Marvel Superhero Island, but there were comic. Um, they're the comic characters, but even from the MCU, Disney's not able to use the Marvel characters in their theme parks unless it's a set of characters that hadn't shown up, like the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people have some level of issue with this now, but for a lot of different reasons. But there's a new Guardians of the Galaxy ride that's opening at Epcot in the next couple of weeks, and that's the only reason why they use those characters is because they don't the Guardians don't end up under the Universal rights that they have for those characters, so they're able to do that. But the fact that also, I mean, on a separate note, the fact that Epcot is becoming all this IP stuff all over the place is something that people are having some issues with, because clearly it's not what Walt Disney had envisioned for the idea of Epcot as a park. But now it's, all these different intellectual property stuff that's all over the place with Epcot now, including this new coaster, this Guardians coaster that's going to be opening in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's all kind of interesting stuff that it's all sort of like.
Mm-hmm.
And when you move your
Yes,
legs.
right.
The official handbook of the
Yeah,
Marvel
that's
Universe
what I'm
is the
talking
one
about.
that Joe was talking about earlier.
Yeah, those were great. I used to love to read those and
Mm-hmm.
find out, you used to have like diagrams of Iron Man's armor and blueprints and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm. It's such an interesting thing, because I think like when you and I first met, like I knew nothing about comic books, like zero about comic books, and I feel like I've learned quite a bit. Wouldn't you say,
yeah,
about the characters?
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, and even it's interesting because when we met, I was still buying comic books, like probably mostly Amazing Spider-Man and maybe a little bit of Fantastic Four,
10-4 stick.
but probably around Civil War, like that storyline or whatever, I didn't like it, so I just thought, you know, so I stopped kind of buying them every week or every month around that time, and then yeah, because I had a huge run of those books and stuff. So, but it
I
just
thought we could talk about the fact that I leaned
no,
into
no,
like your interests.
yes, no, but you
But
definitely know a lot about comic books now.
but
For
instead
sure.
it became like a story about how Joe stopped.
No, no, because
Joe has
around
a
that
whole run.
no, because around that time, like that's kind of when I was getting out of comic books, I guess. And,
I think part of the reason why you were getting out of comic books is probably also because you might have met me, and
yes,
like we were.
better things to do.
No, but like exploring like
No,
different
I
interests
I
and
did.
stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
did take her to a couple Comic Cons, which she didn't really.
No, but I was
Yeah,
open to
yeah,
it.
she was open to it,
Yeah.
but yeah, you definitely do know a lot about comic books now, so. Or comic films and some of the characters. And Henry, Henry. Actually, you know what, Kyle? My mom saw one of the live streams where I was showing off the Henry comic that you sent, and she said to me on the phone. She called me like, about a week ago, and she's like, "Oh, Henry, yeah, I remember buying that from." My mom is like 80 years old, 82 years old. So she's like, "Oh, I remember that character. I used to buy it at the convenience store."
Kyle
So
says my comic book knowledge is impressive.
it is. Yes.
Stop pushing on that cord, please.
I'm sorry.
I'm
My leg
worried about.
is.
Hi, Zen Daydream.
Hello.
And he's the Bo Show now. We did talk. We did talk some baseball earlier that we were sad about, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you're feeling as sad as we are about
Yeah.
what's going on right now.
The Jays need help.
Kyle says my wife would prefer that I ship several boxes out to
Yes.
Joe.
Yeah, I'll take them.
We don't have the space.
It's hard though, like because I did end up buying some comic boards and bags because I had these loose comics. So I'm like, well, I might as well bag and board them. And yeah, the price of them really went up.
Bag and boards.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's inflation. It's everything.
Yeah, it was like $25 for 100 bags and boards.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's crazy.
Bosho's saying, "Yep, they need a win against Tampa. Not a win. We need to win.
Yeah.
Just win. It's
They need to hit.
They just need to win. This is
win.
terrible. This has been just awful. We were saying when we first started out, like a couple weeks ago, the Jays were in a pretty good spot, and we're feeling pretty good about where they were. And then now 2 weeks later, since we did our last live stream, it's like, brr, like what happened to the Jays? But the reality is, there's ups and downs in the season. We hope that, or I hope that the Jays, when they start hitting and their pitching, solidifies, that the Yankees, on the other side, they start tanking, and we start being able to level stuff off, because this has been pretty lousy couple of weeks for Jays fans.
Yeah. I'm surprised at how bad the Red Sox are doing. I didn't think they would be in last place in the division.
Yeah, like worse than the Orioles, which is pretty insane. Prices have doubled on comic supplies. Doubled, eh?
It's crazy.
Wow. Well, that's like with everything else, though. I mean, everything in the last little while has been so expensive, and like we don't need to talk about gas, but I mean, come on, like it's been pretty crazy.
Well, plastic is going to go up. Like plastic and
everything.
Cardboard.
AL East is going to be a beast of a division again this year. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's fun, but to watch us getting swept, us being the Blue Jays, the last couple of games was
by the Guardians. And
well, we didn't get swept by the Guardians. We lost the series, but we got swept by the Yankees, and we really needed to at least win, at least to split it. But value of old comics has quadrupled.
Yes, it has. It's crazy, some stuff. I wish I had some of those issues that I sold off years ago. Like Spider-Man 300. I did have Moon Knight #1. But I think it was only like a $5 book or something.
Well, yeah, it would have been.
Who cares?
Even last year, people would have been like, "Who cares about Moon Knight?"
Well, a few years ago, but yeah, it's crazy. You know what's interesting though? I'll just hop in because it does relate to Kyle's thing. Is I did see a fellow today, and he had the first appearance of the Taskmaster.
Taskmaster.
Yeah, from Black Widow. And he had the first appearance of Moon Knight, which is Werewolf by Night, and they were reprints. So I guess because new comics aren't selling as much, so what they're doing is reprinting old comics, like those first appearances. And I think it was like $3.99 or $4.99 for new comic. The guy showed me today, and I was like, "Wow, it's crazy."
The,
But a
and
good
even
idea,
and
like with
even
the
Kyle
original.
saying I'm shuffling around tens of thousands of dollars worth of comics
Yeah.
nowadays. Yeah, tens of thousands of
Mm,
dollars. Yeah, and now's the time to do it because that's where the value is at, right? Avengers 196 and Werewolf by Night number
yeah.
32.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Those are the ones you were talking
Yeah.
about. But the reprints, is that?
Yeah, they're like brand new reprints that Marvel just put out, like floppies, and it's got the first appearance of each character. So, and I've heard that like they're taking older comics and reprinting them because no one's buying the new stuff because it's just,
Right.
you know,
Yeah. And new comics are up to around $5
that's
minimum.
crazy.
But that's probably how much they're worth, right? I mean, how much do they cost?
Well, the U.S. cover, right? So they would be more in Canada if it's $4.99 a book, U.S. than the Canadian. Yeah, I wouldn't want to be a comic store owner
Oh
today,
yeah.
having to carry new comics and stuff. There was a comic store a few years ago that opened up in Toronto, and it was in Kensington Market. We used to walk by, and Pure Later or whoever FedEx would leave like the statements on the guy's door, and it was like stuff from Diamond, like whatever it was, whatever new books that I ordered, and like I remember seeing it was like $900 or something. I'm like, that's a lot to pay, like to order all these books, like per month or like per week or whatever the
Mm.
guy had to order. But I was like, that's a ton of money.
Mm-hmm. And yeah,
And then if you don't sell it, you're stuck with it.
in a
Like,
place in Kensington that's not like a really
yeah,
huge or really well known
yeah,
comic book store here in Toronto and stuff like
yeah,
that. That's a lot of inventory
yeah.
to
And
really get stuck with.
he split town. Apparently, he unfortunately, just the rent was too much, and he had to take off. Too
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Comic books and baseball, so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle says most comic shops make their money off supplies, gaming stuff like Magic and Pokemon, and with back issues.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah,
What's crazy is how like Magic and Pokemon persists.
yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like years and years and years. My goodness. If I wish I understood like the whole Pokemon thing better.
Well, they
Um,
had first edition cards, like so the first ones
but
came
there's
out. And,
cards, but then there's the there's all kinds of stuff. Like there's so many layers to Pokemon.
Mhm.
Um,
But you're playing it, so if you have a really good, Magic card or a Pokemon card, um, when you're playing the game, you need that card,
no,
right? So,
I understand like how I mean like I kind of understand how that works because I don't know what it is to play those games and stuff. I have a sort of working knowledge of how it works,
mm,
but like I'm talking about the whole universe.
yeah,
There's a lot that is like it's sort of like my understanding of like Dungeons and Dragons. Like this
mm,
is like going back a couple decades now, but like it's just a working understanding of how like it works. But I wish I understood the whole universe of it because there's so much to it, and I think that it's the same with like Magic and Pokemon stuff too, and how like and the commerce around it because there's so much. The
yeah.
people the people who do Pokemon Go, do they play
I don't know if that's
Pokemon?
still a thing anymore.
It is a thing. People
Really,
still do that, and that's my
right?
point, right? So
Mm,
people who do Pokemon Go, they're probably not playing the card games, but they are going to like let's say like Pokemon Center in Ikebukuro in Japan, and buying those plushies, right?
mm-hmm.
But who it's fascinating to me, like the whole universe of like these like things like Magic and Pokemon and things like that.
I wish I had a time machine.
Interactive
Mm,
gaming, that's the appeal.
keep all those Pokemon cards.
Hmm. Then it's down to supply and demand when they short print more popular items to raise the value. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Do you think? Here's a question
Anything's,
for. Sorry, it's my foot.
yeah, push it.
Okay. Okay. Do you? Here's a question for Kyle. Do you think like newer comics will be worth anything? Like in 20 years?
See, look, Kyle says all our kids are Pokemon Go fanatics. One of the
Mm-hmm.
boys and the grandson are deep into the cards too. So yeah, you would think like when it first came out, we were both like Pokemon going, Joe and I, too. But we were never into like
No.
Pokemon. But we did the Pokemon Go thing for a while. And so because you're not into it anymore, you don't. It's been a while since you've been into it, so you don't think that people are doing it. But people are still
I guess so. I
really
just
heavy into it,
yeah
actually.
yeah. I just don't see anybody physically doing it anymore.
They are.
Because there were businesses that were like, oh, here's a like
A stop.
a stop, right? They would be advertising that or putting signs in their window for whoever. It was kind of fun. Like,
It was fun. We went down and at one point like we went down to the CN Tower, which is like the big um, tower that we have
mm-hmm.
here, and there were people collecting Pokemon around the CN Tower and stuff. That was and you know you kind of get to see people and
There was one you were looking for a long time,
Pikachu.
and then you actually found it, but you actually walked outside like a block to get it.
I went out at midnight to get
Right.
a Pikachu
Yeah.
in the middle of winter. It was like it
Right.
was cold and stuff like that, but that was the last one I got
Mm-hmm.
because I never had a Pikachu. Um, Kyle says they keep making movies off newer comic ideas, so that hikes the prices of those, like the new Miss Marvel. Yeah, and most comics are just fillers, though, with the occasional lottery hit with new character introductions. That would be
I
like the new
see.
ones, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But and it's interesting though with like the Marvel stuff and comic valuations and things like that because um, when you think about like what is coming down the pipes in the MCU, I guess people are just sort of like waiting and seeing how it hits. Like you were just saying, like the Ms. Marvel and the Marvels, right? Like that movie's coming out. Um, there's Ms. Marvel that's coming out. There's the Marvels that are coming out too, right? But I think that they were probably disappointed with how Captain Marvel um, hasn't really kind of like um, hooked people maybe as much as they would have liked. Um, and so maybe they're hoping that with Ms. Marvel and the other this is the I think it's called the Marvels I think right that's
Mm-hmm.
coming out that'll actually capture um, more of the female or the more the it's a different demographic I think right and for me even I think it would be interesting to see more female characters that are more forefront in the Marvel universe so it would be good to be for to see whether or not Marvel is able to do that justice I think for a lot of like female fans of not just the comic books but also the MCU too. Kyle saying speculators messing up the market, value peaks, crashes and burns, relaunches, rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with my sense for the little that I know about any of these kinds of things is that with the pandemic, people just being at home, not having a whole lot to do, ended up like driving a lot of these peaks and crashes in the last couple of years. Probably, I would imagine that it might be leveling out a little bit more now, but probably in the last couple of years with people not having a whole lot to do, just being at home,
Yeah.
and having this at least at their disposal.
Yeah.
It's almost like
Well, it was like that with the Marvel cards. People just went bananas on the
mhm,
old Marvel trading cards from 1990, and the during the pandemic, people, like, I guess they weren't a lot of them weren't sent in or graded or whatever. So um, yeah, they were going for like stupid prices, and guys were buying sealed boxes of them, and trying to open up the packs and pull out a mint, like a Spider Man or a Stan Lee or a Captain America
mhm.
and so forth. But I think that's kind of died down.
But it's become like the stock market. Like and instead of like
Mm-hmm.
it's such a fascinating thing. I guess it's always been like
Yeah.
that, but it seems like more so. And it seems like the values on them are
Crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's a
Mm.
whole lot more money in
Yeah.
it.
Even Mike Trout's rookie card is like a couple $100, which is crazy.
Crazy,
Like his rookie card, like I
crazy.
don't.
That's a lot. Crazy. That's a lot.
Well, it's like $300 or something. Like if it's graded, I guess it's more. It's yeah, because how old is like he's what been playing less than 10 years. So
Comics will peak and valley, not too many more years before superhero fatigue sets in again. I agree with
yeah,
that. I think it's kind of setting in a little bit now, to be
yeah.
honest. Like, I mean, again, like, we were talking about sort of all this multiverse stuff, and I don't know how many people are like, yeah, like, multiverse is really exciting,
Hmm.
Um, it's just a way that it makes things kind of interesting. But I think that there is maybe a fatigue that might be settling in, and as much as these Disney Plus things are interesting, maybe it is too much.
Hmm.
I know that they canceled Hawkeye. They're not going to make a
Hmm.
second season of Hawkeye
Good.
and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I like that character, and I like Kate
I like
Bishop.
I like Hawkeye. Just did not like the show.
Yeah. And Kyle was saying all commodities do that. Stocks, gemstones, well, of course.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're talking about. Seriously, we're not commodities people. So, um, still billion-dollar movie franchises though, so not going good yet. Yeah,
Yeah.
it, but I could see the
But
fatigue piece though,
yeah.
and what you're saying.
Yeah. Because I think with these movies they have to spend so much on special effects and advertising and everything like that. So a movie's gotta make like almost $1 billion or like 900 million or something to be a success. If it makes like you know if it makes its money back and then only does like 100 million on top or two, like it's considered a flop or a failure.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I don't know what they consider the Eternals. I'd imagine that
Hmm.
it's probably not.
That flopped
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah, it might be considered to be more of a flop than anything else. But yeah, that even the two of us who would see every one of those things haven't made the time to watch the Eternals. Um,
No.
I think is interesting. Which, by the way, Kyle, I just realized I haven't watched. We haven't watched the Bloom County.
No, we have to
Oh,
again,
I'm so.
but we'll watch it.
It's so funny because like sometimes we'd be like, okay, like there's no baseball. Oh, brain.
Yeah, but you've been tired too, so.
Yeah.
But we'll watch it. We have it. So.
Kyle says me with the $1 million princess smile. Oh, we just got a bird from Kyle. But no,
Nice.
I'm
It's Penguin.
penguin. No, but it's terrible. Like, because I every so often I'll be lying in bed, or I'll be somewhere where I'm not in front of a TV, and I'll go, I need to watch that. We need to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, brain fart. Totally. I do really want to watch
Yeah.
it. So it's like,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. I had a friend who he brought me a bunch of DVDs and some Blu-rays, and I actually just turned them down. Like I'm gonna go, thank you, but like because it's like, oh, I have this on DVD. I don't really need this on Blu-ray. Blu-ray. I don't have time to, you know, there's stuff I haven't watched yet, and like I'm okay. Like I'll if I ever want to watch this movie, I'll watch it on Netflix
You
or
know
something.
what's so weird though, right? Is that there's all this um like endless amount of things to watch now.
Mm-hmm.
um and but there are things that I want to watch,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, like, when you're like thinking like, well, what to watch, you end up watching like some dumb thing that you weren't even thinking of watching in the first place, which is just, what we should do, we should like write down the things that we need to watch,
Mm-hmm.
and have it in a list, so we have it there, so that we're like, oh, like, we need to watch this, and it's
Mm-hmm.
it's there for us to watch it, because otherwise, like, we're just dumb. We're just like, oh, we'll just turn on
Yeah.
YouTube. Like dummies. We did watch all the Jack Campbell
Yeah. We
videos
watched
recently, so
Zach Campbell, Doctor Pool. Watched a bunch of
we've been
those.
watching Dr. Pol, but we haven't
Not
watched
for a
that in a
few
month.
weeks.
Yeah. um Bloom County ongoing cartoon now in the works. Yeah, that's so great.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for that. And also, the thing that's happening, this is totally off topic of any of this stuff, is Kids in the Hall.
Yeah. It's yeah.
So actually excited about like this new series of Kids in the Hall that's going to be on Amazon Prime, because back in the 90s, I think I might have actually mentioned it a couple weeks ago on the live stream. I remember going to a live taping in the 90s, to see the Kids in the Hall, and they were hilarious back then. And some of the stuff now isn't gonna fly. If you watch some of the stuff now, from back in the 90s, they're not going to necessarily be politically correct, and some of it is a little, but that happens, I think, with humor. And but there is a new season of Kids in the Hall that's going to be on Amazon Prime starting the 13th. So I don't know, maybe that's Monday or Tuesday or something like that. And that's so exciting. We've seen them live.
Mm-hmm. We did see them live
We,
a
we
few years
Yeah,
ago.
we saw them live at Massey Hall, which is this amazing concert venue here in Toronto, and they were hilarious then. And I'm super super excited for this new season too, because I don't know, like, maybe people younger than us might not necessarily get the humor as much, because they were on Fallon, they were on Jimmy Fallon, and they were like kind of cracking jokes and stuff like that, and I could tell that the jokes weren't really landing. But and then they showed a clip of a something like guys in their 60s on the pole,
Mm-hmm.
and like they played it, and it was, to me, it was hilarious. But the people in the audience didn't seem to kind of be
Yeah.
getting it as much, or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I thought it was funny. I wonder if they're going to have Shadowy Man from the Shadowy Planet do the theme music again or do something new for the show.
You would hope so,
Yeah,
because
you would
yeah,
think so.
and that kind of also dovetails into like Joe's Suffragette. Maybe they'll get the Suffragettes to do do their music. But yeah, like Kids in the Hall, it's pretty exciting. It's such a throwback though, because it's an interesting thing. Like Joe and I, we met at a restaurant slash bar called the Rivoli, and the Rivoli, in there's a back area that is
Comedy.
oh, not just comedy, but they like historic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Kids in the Hall, they did a lot in the beginning, um, back in the Rivoli
Yeah,
back
in the
room.
1980s. Yeah.
Hmm. So where we met is a historic kind of a place. If you haven't seen Blast from the Past, Dave Foley is great in that with Brendan Fraser and Christopher Walken.
Blast from the
You know
Past.
what? That's been
That sounds familiar.
yeah, it's because it's been on our
Oh,
recommendations.
is it?
It's been coming up on our recommendations on our home screen of the Amazon
Yeah,
of our Amazon
yeah,
Fire TV.
that's it. Yeah, because Amazon, we don't really watch a lot of stuff on Amazon Prime. I mean, I
No.
watched some of the, old unsolved mysteries
Mysteries.
from like 1987. Robert Stack. I watched a bunch of those, and I watched, I think, some Laurel and Hardy, and I watched some Lupin the Third. But other than that, I haven't really watched much on Amazon Prime. So
Yeah.
it's good they're creating new content
Yeah.
like this, because Netflix, I think, is going to go under.
You heard it here for
Yes, they're going under.
talking about like stocks and
Yeah,
valuations and things like that.
yeah. I
But
think they're in big trouble
but
down the road. So.
that's yeah, Dave Foley and even talk radio talk
Yeah.
Dave Foley
Mm-hmm.
was and you think about like the last 30 years or 40 years and how much those guys have actually all done. It is pretty interesting that Dave Foley. I mean, he was sort of like the prettiest looking one, I think, of the bunch, and he did a lot of different things outside of Kids in the Hall, but it's cool to see them back together again, and and they're kind of they're a little bit more crotchety at this point, um, and you could see that there's still a little bit of like a tension between them. But I think that part of that tension is the creative kind of like tension and process that maybe made Kids in the Hall as good as they were. So I'm really looking forward to watching it. But those guys are funny. Those guys are so funny.
Well, they're paying for rocket fuel for another dick rocket for for Amazon.
What?
I said with the success of the show, it's just going to go for fuel for like another dick rocket
Oh, you
because
mean
of Amazon, right, Jeff?
Jeff Bezos'
Yeah.
rocket? I'm like, where are you going with this? It looks like a toy. It looks like
Yeah. When you order something from Amazon Prime, it
not
goes
just
for
Amazon
fuel.
Prime, just Amazon. Period. Like if you order anything
You
from
get to make another
Amazon,
dick rocket go up
stop
into
saying
the.
that. It's gonna um, YouTube is gonna say something about how it's not. It's probably gonna. I don't know. What do they call it? The
Cancel.
no. I don't know. They'll probably take this down or
No,
something.
come on. People have said worse than that.
And they get
On
taken
YouTube.
down.
Oh, come on.
They get taken down.
Dick is a real name, though.
Well, it is, but it's also, when you pair it with certain words, people might be like, because when you started saying that, I was just like,
what if someone is named, their
well,
name
okay,
is
so,
Richard Rocket?
well, what if it is? Again,
So his name would be Dick Rocket.
well, if that's what he goes by, he could also go by Rich Rocket.
Yes.
Potentially.
That's very rich.
I'm sure like the last thing this like a guy named Richard Rocket would go by is D Rocket. I think he would go by Rich Rocket or just change his name altogether. That's terrible.
Well, it's true. That's where the money is going.
Well, it's going to a lot of different places.
But
That's
it's also
certainly one of
going.
them.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
Total waste.
Hey, look at see, Ricky Rocket is the drummer for Poison.
Yeah.
Thank you for saving us because I don't know where this was going.
Yes.
Oh goodness. I'm like, where is this going? We have to stop it right now. Oh, here's a question for you, Kyle. We were talking about how people, and if you know this, I'm gonna be like, woo. Um, so Oasis, um, there's the two Gallagher brothers, of course, but does anyone know any of the other members of Oasis? Do
No,
you happen to
I
know
I couldn't name
anybody
them.
else in Oasis part apart from the Gallagher brothers? Do you even care? That's also another question. I worked for a company when I was in my 20s, where we also had a client that they were sort of like a music related company, and the client that I worked for, so the person, the actual individual with whom I was working with was a big Oasis fan, and you know, Oasis is Oasis is a good modern-ish day take on the Beatles. Is what I think about Oasis. They catchy songs. They,
What's the story? Glory is like
catchy.
it's a classic like '90s album for sure.
But I mean, but the thing is, like, without the Beatles, like, where would they be? Like, where would their sound be? I wonder, like, who they would have sounded like if it wasn't for the Beatles.
Yeah, but in high, I know what you're saying, but even the Beatles were influenced by Buddy Holly. Like you could
No
hear
doubt,
Buddy Holly in the
no doubt,
crickets in the
no
Beatles.
doubt. But
But they again,
give me another band. Give me another band that seems to take so much
I
influence.
can, well, not as much, but I hear it. Crowded House. I hear some
No,
Beatles
I'm not talking. I'm not
influence.
talking some. I'm talking like
The
a
whole
lot,
thing.
a lot, a lot. And I curse you that you said that
Well,
about
no,
Crowded
no,
House.
not in a negative way. I'm saying there's some songs that sound
Sure,
uh,
but
some of the
but still, like Crowded House. I mean, if the Beatles played, if the Beatles covered Oasis, it would have probably just sounded like a Beatles song.
okay.
If they covered um, whatever the older brother, he has something about the Flying
Noel.
Birds or something like that. Yeah, Noel Gallagher and the Flying Birds or whatever band that he has. If they were to cover, if the Beatles were to have covered any of his songs, people would have been like Yesterday Part Two, that weird movie.
Mm.
like
Yeah, that was
uh,
a weird movie.
yeah, okay, well, you don't have to go into the movie, but it, like I don't like, I think the thing about Oasis is that they're a good band. They they have good songs, but the fact is they just sound like the Beatles.
Yeah.
Like sort of like not as good as the Beatles. Um, but Oh, anyway, so the thing that the story that I was telling is that there was a person, but you know what? People love Oasis, and that's fine. I don't, I don't begrudge people for loving the bands that they love, and it's just not. This just happens to not necessarily be my big band. There are there are a number of Oasis songs that I love, but as a band, I don't ever think like, oh, I really would have liked to have seen Oasis, or I would have. I didn't. Um, in my 20s, I saw a lot of concerts. I never made it a thing to go see Oasis.
Mm.
I would have rather have seen Blur. And I have seen Blur? I can't remember. I've seen the Gorillas. But I would rather see Blur or the Gorillas over Oasis. That's sort of just my preference. But I remember um, the fact that I'm a huge REM fan, and I remember that this particular person who was a big Oasis fan kind of like dissed my REM love, and I was like, "What's up with that?" Like it was sort of like this like weird kind of underhanded sort of like Facebook thing, and at that point I was like, I'm out on Facebook because this is stupid. Why do I have to feel bad about like a band that I love and it's this other person who I don't know. I had like an opinion about it and kind of did it in an underhanded kind of way with another person that I liked or whatever. And anyway, that was a weird tangent. But people can love the music that they love, but why does it have to be? But that said, like we had that whole thing where we had that music festival thing where
Yeah.
we like just a bunch of bands. So maybe we should talk
Right.
about that. But
There's one there.
yeah, so Kyle was saying plug and play members just built around the brothers, interchangeable parts. I thought that they actually had a drummer that was with them for a good portion of their thing, but that wouldn't surprise me because it would probably be a hell. It probably would have been not very fun to be a part of that band. And Kyle was saying, I got a funny Chris Cornell Oasis story. In a restaurant bar with Chris for an hour without knowing who he was before a kid walked up for an autograph.
Mm.
Chris Cornell. Record company had him introduce them at the show the night that after he played, held him over in town for cross promotion.
Interesting.
So this year, like you were there? You've met Chris Cornell? That was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
That was so heartbreaking. Chris Cornell. Yeah, and I think around that time too.
Stone Temple Pilots. Isn't that around that time?
Oh, Scott Weiland. But what I was just going to say about Chris Cornell is that I don't know where I heard it. It might have been one of these like radio things or something like that. But heard that Chris Cornell was somebody who was hoping that he was bigger than he was. That he was maybe disappointed with himself that he wasn't as popular as he had thought that maybe he could have been or should have been or something like that. And how he was trying to do some hip hop collaborations and different things like that to try to be more out there, be more kind of a pop guy than he was just the awesomeness that he was as Chris Cornell, which is really unfortunate, I think. Kyle's saying I've met too many musicians to count. Yeah, wow. And some really amazing ones to boot. Woo! Amazing. I liked your Rick Springfield stories from the last time too. So it's so cool. Like it's befriended Wayland in the same venue area, had dinner and wrote poetry with Dio in a booth. Who's Dio?
Ronnie James Dio.
Oh.
He's a metal guy. He took over Black Sabbath after Ozzy left.
In a booth at the restaurant part of that same bar. Wow. I think the question that I have around like somebody like, for instance, like Wayland, was that would he have been like kind of like out there because he was known as a guy who did a lot of substances. I think to the point where the substance is probably more normal for him to be on substances than he would have been to be sober. Is that uh, like is that how you experienced somebody like um, you know Wayland or even some of these other folks? I wonder, because I'd imagine that yeah, some of these guys are probably heavy into their substances and things, and I mean that's I think what it did end up happening with Wayland. But I'd send you a note on Messenger hoping to cross paths with you on Facebook. But I don't even know what my um, Facebook presence would even be at this point.
I don't think anybody uses Facebook.
Lots of people still use Facebook, but I got out of it because I'm, like I mentioned before, with like movies and stuff like that, I'm too sensitive. Like, so never mind like what can happen for me on something like Facebook. It doesn't take a whole lot for me to feel kind of bummed out about stuff. So I got out of it. I think like pretty um, yeah, like 15 years ago or so, just so that I didn't have to deal with. Um, just coming across stuff that didn't make me feel good about myself, I guess. I watched Scott get burned on a heroin deal in the back alley behind the bar. He was a hot mess in the end. Yeah, I imagine that's true. There was an interesting story that uh, Slash told. Is it Slash?
Flash?
Is the guy with the hat?
Yeah.
Slash, right? He told about Waylon. I can't. I think it was on a podcast, I think, and he mentioned that he thought that Waylon was the guy that was gonna beat the odds. That even though he was somebody who really pushed his luck when it came to his substance use, and the way in which he lived his life, but Slash thought that Waylon was the guy that was gonna beat it, or be able to uh, not have it do him in.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting.
Well, it's like Taylor Hawkins, like he had a bunch of stuff in his system too.
Facebook
And
keeps me staying in touch with the comic book community around the world. Yeah, I bet that's
okay,
a
yeah.
really great place to do that for sure. That's the thing about Facebook. It is, I mean, social media, right? But Facebook is like the granddaddy, really. Well, apart from
MySpace.
MySpace, but the fact that Facebook is still around, right? And the fact that it does keep people together. They were in Velvet Revolver together. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it sounds to me in some ways that it's a minor miracle that like Slash is still around
Well,
even.
he was more of a drinker, I think.
Yeah, but drinking could get
No,
people.
for sure, you can be a mess from booze, but I think it just got with him. Like I heard him on an interview or something, and he just said, by the time he got into his 40s, he was just so sick and tired of drinking and the hangovers and stuff. So I think he's clean. But of course, I don't know the guy.
Yeah, Slash is a bad drunk.
Yeah.
These guys, I'd imagine, with also, like so much energy and so much. I don't know. Like I'm kind of talking out of my butt here, but like I could imagine not.
It's Keith. It's like Keith Richards syndrome. Like even Taylor Hawking.
What do you mean by that?
Well, that a lot of these guys who are musicians, they see Keith Richards drinking a bottle of
No,
Jack Daniels.
I don't think that's how it works.
1972, and
I don't think that's how it works. I think like there's a lot of guys who are creative, and just because they're hugely creative doesn't necessarily mean that they have a good self-esteem. And maybe some of them might be, saying it's like, oh, like I want to look like a rock star and stuff like that. But I think for a lot of these guys, they end up using substances not because they want to look a certain way. I think they use substances because they want to feel a certain way, you know? And butt talk. Exactly. I'm just talking out of my butt. Because I don't, clearly I can't know, what's in these guys, but I think that people who are um, who are creative, who are talented, who are not necessarily well adjusted. there's probably a lot of different things that go into mental illness. There's a lot of things that go into why like people turn to substances to be able to perform or to live up to a certain way of being. Kyle says so many performers have stage fright and anxiety issues. It's self-medicating plus plus plus, right? Um, there's the self-medication, and there's probably the more like professional medications, and like you were saying about Taylor Hawkins, they found a bunch of stuff in his system. It wasn't just
Yeah, because I think he was going down that road, and Dave Grohl said to him, "Hey, man, like you gotta
it sounds like it's been some,
shape up or whatever." So I thought he got clean or whatever.
but no one ever knows what's going on with a person.
Exactly
I
right.
mean, um, and we only hear a sliver of whatever is the reality. I know that Kudo, one of our cats,
Jumped on my lap.
and her claws are so. Look, I have
Scratches
scratches
on
all
them.
over, and it's from Kudo. But I mean, who are we? Like again, this is butt talk, like literal butt talk. So what we're doing here, and we're just like, talking out of our butts in terms of like what we think would be issues with people. But you know, it's tough. Life's tough, man. I don't know what's happening now.
Oof.
We also, I think, mentioned that we got a second kitty. That's not butt talk. And actually, before we start talking about Hazel, Kyle was saying the artistic temperament is conducive to mental health issues, OCD, ADHD, on the autism spectrum, impulse control, bipolar, etc. Right?
That's right.
I completely agree.
And that's why I've been writing a song for 10 years. It'll never get finished.
It's it's a little bit morose, but my but I've said to Joe that like he could play that at my memorial. He's like, and now the song that Mio never heard finished, and it's actually still not finished now, but I'm gonna sing it for you today because I've been hearing this song now for over 10 years and it's not finished.
It's terrible. That reminds me of like an episode of Eastbound and Down. Have you ever seen that show where Kenny Powers, his catcher, passes away, and he shows up at the guy's funeral, and he starts playing like um, I think he starts playing like Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone at the funeral, like during it's like or something like that. Like it's so fucking funny. But
That's Joe's. That's how Joe's gonna be for me. Kyle says that's why I work so well with musicians. Really, 30 years in the field of mental health care is my 9 to 5 job. So you totally understood it. You totally got it. Yeah, and you totally understood where they were coming from and what may have been. I mean, it's sort of like the two sides of the same coin, right? Like on one hand, it's the creativity and the output and the ability to be able to be the artistic people that they are. But on the flip side to that is all these other difficulties that can come with it, and you understood that, and I'm sure that it was really appreciated by these folks that you did understand the complexity of it, right? Like not just putting people up on a pedestal as like, you know, more than human people. They're just human people with these extraordinary abilities, but there's also that flip side to what that could also mean too. So yeah, um, that's amazing though, you know. And Kyle's like, and I'm a writer, artist, so you get it too. But I think that there's a difference when you have certain insights and when you have maybe different tools, um, and and awareness. Awareness is big. Awareness is huge, and a lot of folks um, don't necessarily they lack an awareness, and not just a self awareness, but a larger, I think, whole awareness. You know, I don't know what that means exactly. Well, I do. I kind of do, but don't know how to explain it. Oh no! Kudo paint! Ow! Her claws are so sharp. You are so sharp. But so 2 weeks ago, we actually had just gotten Hazel. Mm-hmm. And Hazel is another black cat that we got from a friend of a friend. And she was looking for, ow, Jesus, for a new home. Because all these scratches from this cat just like walking over me. And I think Hazel has been um, she's settling in actually quite well, and she's and I love that she's able to hold her own, because the thing with Kudo is that she's an older lady, but she loves Joe, and she, you know, often has some difficulties with people and other cats getting in between her and Joe. I'm one of them that she has a problem with, and the other cats that we had until recently, like she just was really like, stay away from my Joe. And Hazel isn't all over Joe or anything like that, but she's holding her own. So I'm really actually quite proud of her, and really enjoying having this additional new family member. So she's been pretty cool. It's all made me a people person, willing to talk to whomever, whatever. But that actually also is a temperament thing. I think, Kyle, like you know, again, I'm butt talk. Hashtag butt talk. But I'm someone, I think that has an immense curiosity about people, but I love talking to different people about themselves and stuff. But it and I love it, but it exhausts me. So I think that some people, it's something that like really energizes them, and in those moments, like the connection energizes me. But I know, like for myself, like later on, I'm like, whoa, wow, that feels like it. You know, like I gave a lot of myself to making that connection, which again, like I love doing, but I find that it like I notice the energy drain that I feel when that happens. New kitty, meow meow. She's so I really really like Hazel. Let's see if I She's can get her. No, she doesn't like to be picked up though, Joe. So this is a guy just trying to, you know, allow her to be her. And she's a playful. What? What's the no for? Kidding. She's playful.
Yes, she is playful.
She's cute.
Yeah, she doesn't like to be picked up.
No, not yet. Not yet. It might still happen, because like her the different layers of her personality have been unfolding. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, so it's been really cute. She's so cute. Yeah. So I'm looking for another headband or something for myself. My hair is growing. I look like somebody from the 70s at this point. I think of the way that my hair, if I just let my hair down with my, but I'm also losing. I began to lose some of my hair again with the start of treatment. But I'm thankful that I have a lot of hair because I can lose some hair and there's still some hair that's there. But I find that because I'm losing hair, like it's a weird top, like it kind of was like really big on top, like a fountain or something like that, which gives it more of that 70s look. And I'm not really into hair gels and things like that, so it's just this. Yeah, I look like somebody from the 70s. But that said, I was looking, like there's a school and a playground around the hospital, around the hospital where I get treatment for St. Margaret, and it was like looking. Joe was parked by the school waiting for me to get my prescriptions and things like that. So I was walking over to the car where Joe was waiting, and as I looked into the playground, all these kids look like they were from Sesame Street in the 70s.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They all look like they're from the 70s. It's kind of crazy. So maybe the fact that I look like, my hair looks like something out of the 70s isn't that too insane. What do you think about that?
Yes.
What do you think about my crazy hair right now?
I thought your hair, you looked like Joyce DeWitt from Three's Company, like when she had the jet black hair, kind of like Joan Jett.
Did she not always have black hair?
No, she did, but I think it was curly in the early episodes.
Oh, okay.
But like, I don't know, around maybe 89 or 89, 1980 or something, like she kind of looked like Joan Jett. Does that make any sense?
We're talking about Joyce DeWitt from
Yeah.
Three's Company look like
Right.
Joan Jett. But so you think that I didn't look like Joan Jett, but I look like Joyce DeWitt?
Like your hair, like it was in that kind of style, like it was short, but look up a picture of Joyce DeWitt from 1980.
Look, another person from Indianapolis. So Joyce DeWitt is from the west side of Indianapolis too, not too far from where I am now. Who knew?
Yeah, I actually watched. I haven't watched Three's Company in like ages, like years and years and years, decades. And on YouTube, because I've been watching WKRP on YouTube, I think it just recommended Three's Company. So I watched the episode. I think it was like the first episode of Mr. Furley when he became the new landlord. I did watch the. It's pretty funny.
You are one of the like interesting people. Like you're so funny. It's like, oh, like I watched the whole run of WKRP.
I did. Yeah.
Rewatched the whole
There was
run of
probably
WKRP.
2 or 3 episodes I couldn't find on YouTube, but I did watch like a lot of them.
And then now you're gonna start watching Three's Company?
I don't know. I mean, I did watch that one with Mr. Furley, Don Knotts.
The thing with Three's Company, and I mean, I used to watch it when I was a kid. It was just pretty much the same episode over and over again.
Right.
Like, isn't that like there wasn't really anything new that happened in any of the Three's Company. Like it's just the whole
misunderstanding.
Yeah, like it's just like bosom buddies. It's like the same thing over and over again.
That would be an interesting show to
It's
see.
the same one.
I'm gonna go back and watch
It's the
like
same
70s
episode
and 80s
over
television.
and over again.
Barney Miller and
She graduated from Speedway High School.
That's funny.
The fact that that's an actual like real name for a high
Mm-hmm.
school is like pretty cool. Speedway High School in the shadow of the Indy 500. Oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
why it's called Speedway High School. The shadow of the Indy 500 track. Her first job was there. Wow.
Interesting.
It's so fun that you know all these things too. It's pretty amazing. But honestly, like I don't know how many other people are like, I've been rewatching all these 70s, 80s reruns of these shows.
You know what I think it is? Like,
Well, you're
uh,
nostalgic.
yeah, but I mean, we don't really watch television anymore,
No.
right? So a lot of these shows, like back in the 80s, anyways, and maybe 90s, they would, they would have Three's Company and WKRP, and then MASH on CBC, and then Barney Miller, and then it would lead into the news. So all these shows would, you would be exposed to them and you would watch them like every day, right? So, um, and they don't. I know they have TV channels like retro TV and stuff like that, but you don't see those types of shows on, say, like a city TV, like a local station or CBC that they
Uh,
used to play. Like
well, of course. Why would
CBC
they
isn't
play?
playing King of Kensington.
Well, why
You
would
know what
they
I mean?
be?
I know, right? But back then, you would see all these shows like over and over and over, which you don't really see that. And I mean, we don't watch TV, so it's
Yeah,
kind
but
of a new thing, rediscovering these old shows that, oh, I forgot about that, or you know what I mean? Like it's like, oh wow, this because I don't. I mean, they still must make sitcoms
they
on
do.
TV,
They
but
do.
like who the hell watches them?
A lot
Like
of people still
they're
watch
not
them.
getting like 20 million people or
No,
70
no,
million people
no, they're
watching,
not.
right? So they're lucky if they get a million,
Yeah,
you
I think
know.
that's right. But it doesn't mean that people aren't watching sitcoms.
Mm, yes, well, it just seems like
I
an
think
old thing.
this is also like a Pokemon Go situation where you're like,
No,
I
stop.
don't play Pokemon Go anymore, therefore people don't watch sitcoms anymore. Kyle was saying like Mom Brady, Florence Henderson, a local girl too,
Mm,
as is Ron Glass from Barney
mm,
Miller.
interesting.
Lots of people from that area. We have the kids in the hall, and actually not all of them. Three of them are local.
Mm,
Two of them are from Calgary, but they started here.
right.
The troop started here. Not all, what else? What else do we have in Toronto, or who else do we have? We have Mike Myers.
Mike Myers.
We have um, oh, David Lee Roth born a few towns over.
Mm.
Well, that was an interesting experience for me that we
Saw
one
Van
day.
Halen with
Yeah,
David Lee
so it
Roth.
was interesting. I think um, we we had gone for a walk,
Yeah.
just
We
to have dinner or
Yeah,
something like
yeah, we
that.
ended up at the Lone Star, remember?
Yeah,
And
and we noticed all these people with Van Halen shirts at the Lone Star, and we were like, oh, I guess Van Halen's playing.
or
And
played or something like
well,
that.
no,
So,
it was in the middle of the day,
right.
so I think like it felt to me like it was gonna
Mm,
be like an upcoming show or something like that. Like it was gonna be that day. Like there's so many people walking around in Van Halen gear, and we had dinner. And I think that we started talking about like the possibility of like what it might be like to see Van Halen. I don't know a whole lot of Van Halen catalog. I mean, apart from like the big hits and things like that.
mhm,
Um, and so I was just like, okay, if we can maybe get tickets or whatever, that could be an interesting thing. It could be
mhm.
fun. So we ended up getting tickets, and seeing Van Halen that night, and that was with David Lee Roth.
Yeah,
Um,
and that was on a whim, and it was a fun show. I mean, I'm glad we went and
mm,
saw them because obviously Van Halen isn't around anymore,
yeah,
and
that's true. It was a little bit sad for me though because it was David Lee Roth was really slow moving,
mm-hmm.
and Eddie had a bit way more energy than David Lee Roth, but he was also kind of slow moving as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, he was waving the flag around and
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
I think he did one like spin kick,
It,
but it wasn't like
we're talking about David Lee Roth
yeah,
right
it
now.
wasn't like 1984.
No, very
Yeah,
slow. Like it was sad. Like I felt
yeah,
sad
yeah,
watching that.
yeah. And now he can't even sing. Apparently, his
Vocal
voice is
cord.
shot. And Bon Jovi.
Steve McQueen, born in the same hospital as me,
Mm,
went to high school 3 blocks from my
grandma.
grandma.
Mm,
Cool. And Kyle, of course, has seen Van Halen.
yeah,
Their peak in
yeah,
1984.
that
That's
would
when
be
you would have
great.
wanted to see them. Got several pics from that night as I was second row,
Wow,
right in front of Eddie. Wow,
wow.
that would have been fun to, especially in
Mm.
1984, to see them like really super up close like that.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
they broke up just afterwards.
yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know. It,
I have a few of their records. I have 1984 and Van Halen 2 and Van Halen 1.
mm,
Their first album is timeless. Like it's just such a good hard rock album. It doesn't sound dated.
mm.
Like a record that came out in
No.
'78. So
Axel and Izzy from Guns N' Roses, local kids too. Izzy hangs out in the same bars I talked about earlier. I didn't know that they were from that part of the country. That's cool. Axel did something recently, I think on TV with somebody that was kind of different. Like maybe one of the country kids or something.
not really.
I don't
I
know.
know he was singing for AC/DC like live stuff because
He's able to
Brian
still,
Johnson couldn't do it because of his hearing and
right.
stuff.
Axel's able to hit those notes?
I guess so.
That's,
I haven't
or,
seen him actually doing AC/DC, but he was singing for them when Brian Johnson can go on tour.
oh, crazy. Hmm. Well, ACDC's had a
Long
talk
history,
about, yeah,
yeah.
of different
I
people.
saw on YouTube because I've been kind of on like a Paul McCartney kick like the last few weeks. So I was, listening to Ram, um, which I never really listened to very often, or I don't have it or anything, but I came across like a cassette tape of it, so I popped it in, and so I've been listening to that like over and over and over, and then watching some McCartney stuff on YouTube because I guess he's touring around now, but he's not coming up to Canada
No, not right
right
now.
now. But the tickets are like just so much money. It's crazy.
Kyle, what's your thoughts on McCartney and how he's charging several $1,000s per ticket?
Yeah.
There are some tickets that are available for about $250, but for the most part, anything,
It's like $1,000.
yeah, like a couple
It's
$1,000s
crazy.
face value. Just curious about that because I've talked to a few people about it, and some people are like it's worth it, and some people are like it's not. So,
Yeah,
uh,
like if you look at the footage of his, I think he opened in Washington or Seattle a couple weeks ago. His voice is really, really wobbly.
Yeah,
Like
it's
I
not
mean, he's
good.
80. He's almost 80 years old, but he's not singing "Live and Let Die" in that tone. Everything's like toned down.
And it's doubled up by his band.
Yeah, so it's um, there was a bit where he does "I Got a Feeling," and yeah, it's really weird because he's singing it, but it's really weak, his voice, and they have John Lennon from 1969 doing his bits, and it's just a weird comparison. Like you got
But
a
it's fan. But
79
again, like a
McCart.
fan service.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad I saw him in '89, but I kind of feel like it would be cool to see him. And I understand the guy's like 80 years old, and his voice is, like some of the notes and stuff. And
Yeah. So Kyle's saying, sorry.
sorry.
Eddie Money married a local girl and lived here for over 20
Mm-hmm.
years. And my neighbor for a good long while. What's my
Mm-hmm.
neighbor? Oh, lots of stories there. Playing cards in his basement. That would have been fun. Eddie Money. That's cool. Ticket prices are stupid, not worth it
Yeah.
anymore. You know, I think this is an interesting. Um,
Hey,
there's
Hazel.
Hazel. She's let herself known. Hello. Hello, honey.
Yeah. It's.
But no, but let me
Go
just say
ahead.
this because I haven't seen McCartney, and I would like to see McCartney, and I would not, can't pay, don't have the ability to pay, won't pay a
Mm-hmm.
couple $1,000s each to see McCartney, but a couple $100, maybe, and especially because I am a big Beatles fan, to be able to see a Beatle and, not to, well, kind of taking away from Ringo, but I mean, Ringo isn't Paul. And I would, and Paul has a great band that's backing him. He knows how to put on a show, but his voice isn't there. And you know that he's going to give it all he's got, whatever that is, which is not anywhere near what it would have been, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But I would love to see McCartney. I would. Um, and I think at this point, there's probably maybe a handful of bands I would maybe like to really see. And I would say McCartney is one of them for sure. But a couple $1,000 just seems
Crazy. Yeah.
insane. Insane. But I was going back and forth with a few people on Twitter, and there were some people who were like, "Yep, totally worth it, totally worth seeing a Beatle," and even for the couple $1,000s or whatever. And other people were like, "Well, you can find cheaper tickets, and it's definitely worth it to find
You
it."
you probably can.
Um, but there was also a guy who he's in British Columbia, and he was looking to go to one of the Seattle shows, and he just couldn't get his passport on time,
Yeah.
so he couldn't end up going. But he was willing to just be like, I'm gonna just drive down and get a ticket and see him because I mean, this particular person in BC, he has a certain health diagnosis as well, but he's a really, really huge um, music fan, huge Beatles fan. And he's like, it's worth it. It's worth it to see McCartney. But he was also the one that turned me on to the idea that Ringo is playing about 3 hours away from here at the end of May with his all star band. And I've never really been like hugely keen to see Ringo, and we could see him for a couple $100. I think all in probably, and that's probably worth it.
We'll
But
see like an hour version of Octopus's Garden.
yeah, right.
I like to be. Okay, 10 times.
Yeah,
Octopus.
and yeah, and then 3 hours away from here and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And there's other expenses that are built into that, but um,
I'm sure it would be a fun
Oh,
show,
I totally
and
think it would be a
I
fun
think
show.
he has good players with him, like his All Star band. So I mean,
And his voice is in better shape than
yeah, probably it
McCartney's.
is. Yeah, yeah, he's not like screaming or anything.
Yeah. Because Paul, like, if you watch any of those YouTube
Hmm.
videos, is like rough.
Hmm.
It's rough, but it's not what you're seeing anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's not what you're paying to
yeah.
see.
So that was a little bit sad seeing that
Yeah,
because I remember seeing him in '89 and
yeah,
he was only 47 then.
yeah.
I
It
did
would
the
have been great.
math. And Linda was there, and I think the tickets were like maybe $27, like with service charges and everything.
Yeah,
And
that
there
was
was a
that
little
was
magazine
that was
on
back in
the
the day.
1989. So, but yeah, it's weird, like the price of concert tickets.
Well, I don't
Uh,
think all concert tickets hopefully are at the couple $1,000s.
no, but I mean to go see like a McCartney or even Bon Jovi. I'm not a big Bon Jovi fan, but it's expensive to go see him, and the guy can't sing anymore. That was actually kind of sad. Like
His
his
vocal cord.
vocal is like gone
Mm.
completely, and like it doesn't even sound like people were walking out of the show. It was so bad, apparently. But
Mm.
yeah, it's. I
But
mean,
so earlier, Joe was put through Crowded House under the bus, but Crowded House is one of my other favorite bands,
I
and
didn't throw them under the
you totally
bus.
threw them under
I
the
said they
bus.
have some songs that have a Beatle-esque
I said,
sound to
I
them.
said, what other band sounds like the Beatles as much as Oasis? And you totally
Well, I
threw
said Crowded
Crowded
House.
House because they don't sound like the Beatles, like Oasis sounds like the Beatles. I'm sorry, no way, no. Crowded House has their own sound. They do. Some of their stuff, yes, I can see how it sounds Beatlesque, but they have their own sound, and they're one of my favorite bands. And and I think that they're going to be playing here in September.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen them in a long time,
Well, that'd
and
be a
that
fun
would be
show.
a fun show to watch. But um, Joe and I a few years ago went to see Duran Duran, probably 3 or 4 years ago, at an amphitheater here, and it was like the energy of that place was like
Yeah,
completely insane
yeah,
because there were so many people like our age, like women,
yeah,
like my age, like
yeah.
completely
It
like
was like
flipping out.
mom's night outs,
Hashtag Mom's Night Out. And it
but they
was,
sounded good. They were
yeah, they were
tight.
tight, and it was a fun show. Crowded House isn't like way more mellow than that. They but they're also a really good show to watch. So maybe, but I think not a lot of bands are actually coming up to Canada right
Yeah.
now, um, because I'm actually surprised that um, Ringo is going to be up here.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, that's like a that is actually kind of surprising.
mhm, yeah. So I think at this point we're just talking,
Rambling.
rambling. We'll stay on for a few more minutes so that we're not completely boring you.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, thank you as always for
Well,
staying
thank
with
you.
us and giving us your your experiences and your knowledge. It's so cool
Mm-hmm.
to always learn things
Yeah.
from your experiences
Yeah.
and the different things that you also know about, like comics and music and baseball too. So
Any
got to know
money?
Crowded House in the '90s.
There you go.
Dated their manager. Whoo! When she was moonlighting a job at MTV in New York, booked them for a show here so she could come hang out. Long distance relationship. Waka
Wow.
waka. I met Crowded House at a Japanese restaurant the night before I went off to university. They were playing a gig here, and they were having dinner at our favorite Japanese restaurant. And I remember freaking out seeing them in the table next door, next to
Mm.
us. And my dad is like, "What do you?" He was being a crotchety dad. He usually wasn't that crotchety, but he was like, "I remember hearing is this one song over and over again." And I'm like, "That's Crowded House. You were listening. I was listening to them." And I got their autograph, and it was still when their drummer was still with them. So that would have been in the 90s, probably when you would have known them too. Yeah, so that was, oh, maybe not the late 90s. Maybe. Um, yeah, they were cool. And that was before, I think, the Mitchell, the brother, I think. Oh.
Blowing up something.
It was Hazel. Hazel was like standing on something. But that's so neat. So like we kind of are like two. We are definitely like removed. You know the Kevin Bacon thing, where it's like you like remove like six. Six.
Seven.
It's six.
Is it
It's
six?
six. But I think like Kyle, even just with this Crowded House thing, we're like two removes.
Mm.
Because I met Crowded House and he knew Crowded House, so we're only two. And because you know me, you're three removed
Right.
from Kyle. How cool is that?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure Kyle is actually two removed from like everybody on the planet because he knows so many people. That's so cool though. And it's so funny how like he's like, oh, let's book Crowded House so that I can see my girlfriend at the time. That's neat. It's so fun. Wow. I was just like, okay, I wonder if Kyle is going to have a Crowded House story. And he had a really good Crowded House
Mm-hmm.
story. So that was, because I'm like, they're from Australia, not from Indianapolis. I was curious to know like where that was going to go. That's really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Eddie Money used to be a cop, didn't he? Before he became a singer.
You're so like,
Well, no, I'm
you're
just.
so like, okay, we're just talking about Crowded House,
Uh,
but Eddie Money, he was a cop, right?
I think he was a cop. I could be wrong.
Speaking of ADHD,
Mm-hmm.
Mr.
This one.
Kevin Bacon's score from Kevin is One booked him and his brothers.
Oh yeah, his
Oh,
band.
the
Yeah.
Bacon brothers,
Yeah.
right? I think they're called.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one for you and Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder. Yeah, well, we can't because we haven't
Mm-hmm.
met in person.
Yeah.
We've met virtually.
Have you ever played that game? 6 Degrees from Kevin Bacon.
That's what we're doing. And he's one removed from Kevin.
Yeah. But if you take like an actor, like apparently if you take like an old actor or something like Charlie Chaplin or Mae West, you can always lead it back to Kevin Bacon
Well, that's the whole thing.
through actors.
That's the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I know. I'm just saying. It
That's
doesn't
the-
have to be like
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like it doesn't have
actors
to
the
have.
last 50
It doesn't
years.
have to be like a regular
Right.
person.
You could take Buster Keaton and somehow it will connect to Kevin Bacon.
So he says Eddie came from a family of cops.
Oh,
He
okay.
wasn't one himself.
Oh, I thought he was. Okay.
Excuse me. He's an incredibly nice guy. To have him as
Friends.
a neighbor also for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. Chaplin's daughter worked with Kevin 2 Degrees. So there you go. See?
Mm.
Kyle can do that whole thing for you.
Yeah. What about Mae West?
Joe. Like a party trick.
Party.
We'll see what if anything Kyle says about Mae West, but
Yes.
he's already given up so much information. It's really warm in
Yeah,
here.
it is. A
Yeah.
lot of the Saturday Night Live guys, like that's the connection with Kevin Bacon, because he was in Animal House, and then it connects with.
Kyle says May West is 2 degrees as
Mm,
well. There you go.
I heard something on the radio. This is because we are talking about old movies and
No,
movie
you're
stars
talking
and
about
stuff.
old
No,
movies.
but I heard this on the radio that there is some sort of live action Marilyn Monroe movie that's coming out or something. I don't know who's starring in it. But the guy on the radio was saying that apparently there was some sort of sex tape between her and JFK, and some guy bought it for like 10 grand or 10 million or something like that.
Okay.
And um, I don't know.
What does that
But
have to do with the movie?
she's an actress. Well, I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, what? Like, apparently there's like some Super 8 sex tape of Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe that some collector bought for some crazy
There you
sum of
go.
money. So,
There you go. Thank you for that,
yes, no
Joe.
problem. Fits right in.
uh, on that note, I am
Tired.
still having some of my fatigue
Mm,
issues. And again, so much that like Kyle has provided us, like more than I think
mm. No, no.
we do
Kyle
really.
knows a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. and and I hope you're able to. You spent so much time with us. I hope you were able to spend some time with your grandson as well. Um, so it was nice for him to have come over.
Yay.
Yay! And yeah, so we'll be back in another couple of weeks, and hopefully, well, maybe there might be an extra one here thrown in, maybe in the next little while. Who knows? I've been feeling a little bit better, so that would be kind of a fun thing to
Mm-hmm.
do. Is a surprise, but we'll definitely be back in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle, I hope you mentioned that you're hanging in there, but I hope you do feel better too. Maybe both our trajectories could be this way.
Mm-hmm.
That would be fun, and that would be nice. That would be good. Maybe not so much fun. Well, it could be fun. And as always, thank you so much. And I think like people do watch the replays of this. It
Mm.
seems like, and maybe they might not get to the very end. But if you do, please consider joining us the next time. We're here every couple of weeks on a Thursday, and we might start at 8, we might start at 9, who knows. I think the 8 p.m. kind of worked a little bit better for me, like with my
Mm-hmm.
energy this time around, but we'll see how that goes. But please join us if you can. We love connecting. We love to know how you're doing and just talking about stuff. Joe can talk about comic books until the cows come
Yeah,
home,
I
and
can.
old TV shows until the cows
Yes.
come home. And I can't necessarily, but I'll try to hang in the conversation. Music, I'm a little bit better at,
Mm-hmm.
and I can talk about some other stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball being the primary one, I think is the thing that I can most um, talk about. But Kyle said he just popped in and out. 10-year-old energy. Take good care, you two. Always enjoy spending time with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Yeah,
to you, and
same
I'm glad
here.
that you're able to spend a little bit of time with your little guy. And I'm glad that he's into Pokemon Go, proving Joe wrong.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely see you in a couple of weeks. And again, Kyle, please feel better. Please feel better. We'll both again, like on that trajectory upwards of feeling better, hanging in there, more than hanging in there, feeling better. And And chef's kiss. And we will talk to you again real soon.
Yep. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.